These two boxes of Rallyman are jam-packed with possibilities, and it's my intention to highlight all of the interesting things you can do with them. This is Shakedown. In today's Shakedown, we investigate the long and the short of circuit sizes and find out whether there is such a thing as too small. The Nordic countries absolutely love a spot of Rallycross. Ask the internet and it'll say that Sven Hansen invented the concept of a Joker lap in 2002, which somehow feels both far too recent and far too old to be true, but we'll go with it. As a Swede, he was, I'm sure, no stranger to Höljes, the home of Swedish Rallycross, which you might be familiar with yourself as the circuit has been a staple of World Rallycross since the championship's inception. Circuits often have long and short courses to cater to different levels of competition, but Yokiboy has chosen to represent Höljes and a bunch of other circuits from the RallyX Nordic Championship a little differently, offering instead two versions of the course to accommodate those of us who like lengthy tracks and those of us with smaller tabletops. But what if we want something even smaller than these? This is one of the smallest Rallycross circuits you can make in Rallyman, and if you squint it might look a little like Höljes. Maybe, but that's not really the point here. We've got some questions to ask of circuit sizes, namely what kind of racing does each size offer? Each of Yoki's courses will be run to 2 laps and will then run the micro course for as many rounds of play as it takes us to complete those 2 laps on the other circuits, just to see how many we can complete and whether that makes a difference to our time at the table. Is there a sweet spot for Rallyman circuit size that we should aim for when creating tracks, or do we just not need to worry? Hopefully we'll learn something along the way as we race around smaller and smaller circuits to find out. I've got my work cut out for me today as I'm up against the Hansens, a name synonymous with Rallycross. Kevin is yet to win a championship, Timmy won his on a tiebreaker, but their dad Kenneth is a 14-time European Rallycross champion. We're all on the RX dashboards, it's a sunny start to each race, and we're definitely going to allow the likes of the full contact rules to get us out of some tricky situations. Rubbing is racing after all. I've got 3 chances to win, many more to lose, but which circuit is going to make for the more enjoyable racing? We start with a recap of events around the long circuit where Timmy Hansen got out of the blocks the quickest and an ill thought out move left me unable to come alongside the front runner thanks to his defender trait. Kevin wanted none of our fight and peeled off into the Joker lap, allowing Kenneth to move into 2nd place. Even with the defender trait, Timmy decided that blocking the bottom of the track up with a drift would be worth his time, forcing Kenneth to push him out of the way on the next turn. Meanwhile, Kevin emerged from the Joker lap ahead of me, and a poor choice to go flat out saw me crash on the corner ahead of him, which will result in even more damage on the next turn. For now, it's just my one and only boost die. To show you how you should push opponents, Kenneth breaks down to 2nd to nudge Timmy through the corner and comes out the other side in 5th, no damage whatsoever, in contrast to Kevin, who brakes as hard as he can to reduce the amount of damage taken from shunting me out of the corner before he makes it through the hairpin and past his brother. 1 gear damage and 1 green flag each, it could have been much worse, and perhaps should have been, so while Timmy is blocked behind Kevin, I go flat out to catch up and lose control once more, luckily pulling more irrelevant damage tokens. As Kenneth stretches his lead, the next decision is how fast to go over the jump before the final corner, which we all navigate safely with the odd bump along the way. Timmy overtakes his dad at the start of the final lap, but the position is swiftly reclaimed as Kenneth darts into the Joker lap. Unfortunately for Kenneth, he does so in a gear where Timmy can get an overtake and a block, so Kenneth will have to wait for another opportunity to make a move later. In the background, Kevin and I are side by side. He's about to carry on to the standard lap, and once Timmy has completed his Joker lap, I'm about to overtake and block Kenneth once again, except fate seems to have other ideas today as I lose control and take yet more damage. Free to move, Kenneth completes his Joker behind his sons battling for 1st place, and that battle continues around the bottom of the circuit until, after a long run of luck, Kevin's unlucky trait finally bites, and his car starts to succumb to the damage. He draws another gear damage token and desperately hopes it's not enough to lose his position, but you don't get to become 14-time European Rallycross champion without knowing how to compete for places, and it's not long before Kenneth is into 2nd. Timmy goes over the jump in 5th, meaning that the corner is blocked, so Kenneth can only take the jump in 4th. He's hoping it's enough to keep Kevin behind, and with his gear damage it probably is. Timmy crosses the line for a win, Kenneth follows closely in second, and a couple of turns later Kevin manages to keep hold of third place. In all, it took the front runners 15 turns to finish their 2 laps, and when your car isn't beaten up and broken and you can manage 8 spaces of movement each turn, it can feel pretty quick to get around this long course. The entry to the Joker might turn into an interesting choke point, but there are a few ways to wriggle a car through those tiles if you're surrounded by others, and the Joker lap itself is very quick, so you can keep your speed up and still compete for turn order. The bottom hairpin might be a good place to block, but it's also a place where a blocker can themselves get stuck behind their opponents just as easily, so mind who you're up against there. And finally, the jump marks the last real problem for players. Get past it without incident, control the next corner, and you're home free. It's a solid representation of Höljes and a good starting point on our quest to discover whether there is a right size of Rallyman circuit. What kind of racing will we get out of the short course? Let's give it a shot and see. Can we do any better on the short course? Kevin Hansen is in the first car. He's got 1 hazard to worry about, so nothing effectively to worry about on his trip up through the gears towards the first corner. Kenneth in second is going to get into 5th gear and then drop to 4th to push Kevin through the corner and then coast to push him a little bit more. We join the back of the train in 4th gear. And finally, Timmy Hansen is just going to bide his time. He is going to finish here in 4th gear. Next round, Kevin to go first. He is probably going to carry on the standard lap. He's going to take the inside for the upcoming corner. Kenneth behind has a choice of sticking with Kevin or diving into the Joker lap to split the strategy. I think he is going to risk that Joker lap. He's got a flawless set of dice as well, so he's not going to worry at all about what happens on his way through it. We are next, and we might have to think a little more carefully about what we do. We might be a little stuck in the corners. Let's imagine we braked down to 1st gear. How far could we get with our coasts? So we wouldn't be able to get through the next corner there. So our run from here might be better if we go on the Joker lap to maintain a high speed, and we will fight against Kenneth instead of Kevin and Timmy for the moment. So we need to break down to 1st with a couple of brake dice, into 2nd, coast through, into the Joker in 3rd, and then behind Kenneth in 5th gear. Do I want to go flat out on those? That is basically all of my dice, so this is quite the risk. And we have managed it. We've got 2 hazards, once again, not enough to crash. Finally, Timmy Hansen, and from here I think his best bet is to stay on the standard lap and try to keep up with Kevin. That will be Timmy, currently into 2nd place. Kevin Hansen is up next, and he's got hazards on 2, 3, 4 and 5 and a coast, so he is definitely losing control at the end of this turn. He does get some rerolls to see what dice he can place down, however. Gets rid of some hazards. So what would he do? He does have a boost and gear 1, so what he could do is do something like that. Boost up to 3, finish in 5th. Unfortunately for Kevin, he has no idea that he is going to crash, and he has decided to crash in a red tile. So we are going to draw 4 damage tokens. They are -1 gear, a green flag, a -1 gear, and -1 boost. Timmy is next. Will he make the same mistake? He won't. Kenneth is next as he looks to finish his Joker lap. He will leave the inside open to give me an opportunity to take a hazard to dive through the inside. Whether we get that far, who knows? So what can we do? We have a corner that we need to be in 2nd on, and there's a speed limit around here of 3rd gear. So can we navigate our way through? We might need to have some creative boosting going on here. In fact, if we do something like that, drop to 4th, break down to 1st, and then go up through the gears, boost into fifth, and then coast alongside Kenneth. That's probably our best bet. Kenneth does have the defender trait, which means that coast die will be a difficult one to secure. So we're going to roll one by one, see how far we get. So let's see how much we need to spend. There's a hazard on the 4. So this breakdown to first gear perhaps isn't wise. There's a hazard on the brakes. So we are not looking terribly good for finishing this turn safely. I'm going to keep going. Right, so we need to think now. It's going to be impossible to secure this. It will turn into a hazard no matter what. So we don't have to worry about this die. We definitely have enough focus. So we are going to spend 6 focus to secure those 3 dice. Not quite the turn we planned, but we are still very much in this race. Next round, it is Timmy to go first. He is going to have an easy time overtaking his brother around the corner in 5th gear to secure first place. What can Kenneth do? He has a full set of dice to work with. 3rd alongside Kevin, and then into 5th on the inside of the next corner to defend that 2nd place. We would like to do something similar. We're learning from the best after all, and we will see how far we can get through it. Let's see how much we have to spend. The coast is good. 1 hazard breaking down to 2nd, and then 2 hazards on the next few coasts. So I absolutely shouldn't have dropped those out of my hand so quick. We are currently crashing in 2nd gear in a yellow tile, and that is just the 1 damage token. Green flag. That was the best of a bad roll, and we have a lot of work to do to try to get anywhere other than last place. Finally then, it is Kevin's turn. The best he can do is a flying start in 2nd gear. Timmy to cross the finish line at the end of his first lap. He is going to need to navigate some speed limits. He can drop to 4th, coast again, drop to 3rd, and then coast again, and I think boost up to 5th, take the inside. In fact, he could, if he wanted to, then break down to 2nd on the corner. Kenneth is next. He's going to finish in 5th gear, try to get the jump on Timmy on the next turn, while also protecting himself from Kevin behind. Speaking of Kevin, let's see what he can do. He has fewer gears than he'd like, so let's try to give him the chance of using some of them. If he goes 2, 3, coast, he can go over the jump in 4th. That would be the most amount of gears he could use, however, so he has to hope that we don't finish in a higher gear and get the jump on him. At the end of his turn, we check if he is unlucky, and unfortunately for Kevin, he is. He has drawn brake die damage. His car is falling to bits. Do I want to try to finish in 5th to get the jump on Kevin? I think I do. Next round, it is Kenneth to go first. He's going to do much the same as Timmy before him. He's going to obey some speed limits. Let's see. If he coasts and then pushes Timmy in 2nd, Timmy can choose to go on the inside or the outside. He needs to do his Joker lap, so he will go to the outside. From there, however, Kenneth wouldn't be able to overtake. So let's see if he could engineer something a little different. If he goes up to 5th gear there with a boost and then brakes all the way down to 2nd like that, he could come alongside Timmy. They both have the defender trait, so that will turn into a hazard. But that is nowhere near Kenneth's limit of 3, so he is going to finish alongside Timmy in 2nd gear. We are next. We are going to drop down to 2nd gear and then boost over the jump in 4th. And then we can finish just beyond the finish line in 5th gear like that. Kevin Hansen is up next. He has to be in 5th gear to come alongside us. And he can break down to 3rd gear to at least make our lives a little difficult. And he can go into 4th gear to finish if he would like. Finally then, it's Timmy, who has been pushed out of the corner, and he wants to go on to the Joker lap, and he will finish in 5th before that next corner. Let's see how Timmy finishes his Joker lap. Does he want to take the inside? I think he might. I think his dad might give him some problems. Next up, it's us. We could finish in front of Kenneth like that. He would probably push us out of the way, and that means pushing us here. But that would be fine. We should still be able to go on the standard lap. We will have a speed limit of 1. We'd be in gear 2. That's nothing too bad, I don't think. So we are going to do something like that. Of course, if the dice roll lots of hazards before we get there, then our turn will turn out to be a little different. We are good on gear 3. Hazard on gear 4 as we overtake Kevin. Coast's good. A hazard on the brake down to second. So this will turn into a hazard thanks to Kenneth's defender trait. We can't secure that. Unfortunately, we are stuck in the corner in second gear. The wide car of Kenneth up ahead has caused us some problems. Kevin is next, and he has to get past me and his dad. And I'm not quite sure what the best way to do that is. If he drops down to second to push us, then we are going to be pushed next to Kenneth. That doesn't trigger the defender trait because we aren't using a die. It is Kevin behind us who will have to place the die down. He is going to finish just beyond the Joker gate in 4th gear after having muscled his way through a couple of cars ahead. Finally then, it is Kenneth, and even with the defender trait, he's not going to be worried. He finishes alongside Timmy in 5th gear. Next round, and it is Timmy to try to maintain his lead in 5th gear, ready for the next corner. Kenneth is next, of course. A blank set of dice for him. He's going to do exactly the same. Kevin is next. He wants to perhaps take the shortcut in 3rd in order to keep his speed up. So he's going to take a shortcut token. It is okay. He has made it through unscathed, and at the end of his turn, he is not unlucky. It's very important then that we overtake Kevin as soon as we can. We're going to roll those one by one. I have loads of focus should we need it. We are, again, a couple of hazards on our coast die. I'm going to risk this one. That's blank. And then I'm going to pay 6 focus to secure all the way up to 5th gear. Next round, it is Timmy to stake his claim on the victory. He has narrowly avoided a loss of control. Hazards on 2, 3, and 5. Gets rid of a couple of them. So let's see what he can do. I think he wants to break down to second on the inside of the corner. Boost up to 4th over the jump. And he can then coast, and I think block the course in 5th. And that will guarantee a victory as he finishes in a slide a couple of spaces before the finish line. Kenneth is going to do something a little different. He is going to break down to 3rd, drop to 2nd, boost over the jump in 4th, pushing Timmy as much as he can. Timmy is now 1 space from the finish line with his dad 1 space behind him. And you can imagine how the rest of that race went. So long as we continued to stay ahead of Kevin, it was all a formality. And after 10 turns on this smaller layout, the winner crossed the finish line. And that makes sense. Fewer tiles and spaces mean we get through what's left a lot quicker, and it means our turns pretty much always end with us in position, ready for the next challenge, rather than in the middle of a featureless tile that just fills out the shape of the course. Here we've got to decide how to tackle the first corner, and then we need to decide whether to take the Joker or not, which is still just as quick and has a simpler entry. And after that, we've got to decide whether we defend the inside of the hairpin, knowing that doing so may mean that we have to drive over the sharp corner limit and incur an additional hazard. And we're still only halfway through. With this short course, there isn't much downtime. Each turn you seem to be getting through one corner and setting yourself up for the next, and so you're going to need to give a little thought into what you do on each of your turns because they all seem to matter. If the competition are of similar skill and you've all got the same kind of luck, this course can provide quite the battleground as players jostle for position, knowing that a single mistake can be costly. Will the same hold true for an even smaller circuit? And how many laps will we manage to complete on this micro course? Let's find out. We have lucked into being first on the grid, and I'm thinking that we need to get as far away from the Hansons as we can. And to that end, I'm going to go onto the Joker lap in 5th gear. Do I want to go flat out to give myself a load of focus tokens? Yes, I do. We finish in 5th gear. Next up is Timmy Hansen. Does he want to change things up? He can boost up to 4th gear. for his second hazard, and then drop down to third to go on the standard lap, and that will be his turn. Next up is Kenneth. I think he's going to try to get his joker lap out of the way as well, meaning that our last competitor is Kevin. So he's going to go up through to fifth gear behind me and get ready for what the next turn brings. Trying to get through this corner efficiently. I want to be in first gear there to get me up through the gears. So I think if we go like that, drop to third, drop to first, up to second, boost to fourth, take the inside for the upcoming corner. As we go one by one towards this hairpin, the first hazard is on a coast die. Can we break down to third? We can. Can we break down to first? We can. Into second and a boost. Up to fourth. We complete our joker lap and finish in fourth gear. Kenneth is going to complete his joker lap and come alongside us. Kevin is next, and he has an ideal opportunity to mix things up. Timmy can come alongside his brother in fifth gear like that. Turn number 3, and it is Kevin to go first. Kevin has got some cars blocking him. He needs to break down to second, so that will be like that around the outside. That's one hazard. Couple of coasts gets him out of the corner. He can go into third and push one of us in fourth. If he pushes his dad, he might get a Christmas card, so that'll be done like that. And then he can coast past his dad like that. Kenneth has the defender trait, so that will be a hazard. And then ideally he would like to place fifth gear on that gear 4 jump to get the distance. He needs to use his determined roll to see if he can get rid of the hazard, which he doesn't manage. So he doesn't want to place that on the jump. He's got nothing else that will allow him to re-roll this die. So unfortunately he ends his turn there in fourth gear. Timmy is next. He's going to break down to second gear as he needs to. That's one hazard. No more hazards until he hits third gear there. He is going to come alongside me. It needs to be in fourth gear, so that needs to go there. He can then push his dad onto the jump. His dad does not take the jump because he has been pushed onto it. After that, he can go over the jump in fifth gear. Luckily for Timmy, he has the opportunist trait, so he may ignore a hazard when used to overtake. So he doesn't immediately crash off of that jump, and he gets all the way over there in fifth gear. Next up is Kenneth. He's had a couple of free spaces of movement thanks to his sons. He is going to re-roll a couple of hazards, gets rid of 2 of them. He needs to be in fifth gear alongside Timmy, and that will be a hazard because Timmy does have the defender trait. He would need to be in fourth gear here in order to get down to first gear for the speed limits, so he needs to break down to first, and that is another hazard. So let's try to get him as far around the track without laying this final hazard, although he is consistent, so he can re-roll that to try and get rid of the result, which he does, and he will tuck himself in the middle of that corner in second gear. So we need to be in fourth to overtake Kevin. We'd like to go over the jump in fifth, but that would put us next to Timmy, and that's technically an overtaking die. It would turn into a hazard, so we would lose control over the jump. So we don't want to go over the jump in fifth. We want to go over it in fourth. Would mean we can then place down gear 5 and turn that into a hazard thanks to the defender trait. We could then drop to fourth gear, break down to first, and we can then go into third with a boost, and then a second and a coast as we knock over the Joker entrance gate. We've made it through unscathed. We are in second place behind Kenneth, and we are looking a lot better than we were in our previous races. Let's go into the next round. It is Timmy to go first, and because Timmy has yet to do his Joker, he's going to go on it now while it is nice and clear. Next up is Kevin, and he will have to wait to go through the standard lap once we have gotten out of the way. Kenneth is going to have a short turn thanks to Timmy blocking the way forward. we're going to coast to coast boost 4, and we're going to go flat out to get some focus back. Let's see what Timmy can do when we have a clear track ahead. He's going to finish in 5th gear. Kenneth is next. He'll go up to 5th and then go over the jump in 4th. That will compromise his ending gear slightly, but given his traits, I think that will be a wise thing to do. I want to match that if I can. And we're going to find out what Kevin can do. I think end in 5th to try and reclaim some space on the next turn. Timmy has a fair few hazards, gets rid of 3 of them. He's going to drop to 4th, break down to 1st gear for 1 hazard. He's going to coast through into that space. He can boost up to 3rd and end in 2nd there. Timmy looking like the dominant leader. Next up is Kevin. He's going to have to break down to 2nd gear and go around the hairpin. He is then going to drop to 1st, boost up to 3rd, he can go into 4th like that, and he's going to take the jump in 5th, which jumps all the way over me and Kenneth. You would think that after a turn like that, he would then be unlucky, but no, he isn't. His unlucky trait has not yet impeded him. We have to be in 5th to overtake him, and we would like to get as far through the next few corners as we can. I think we're going to match what Timmy did with some coasts like that, and then we can boost up to 3rd and then potentially push him with gear 2. We are going to pay for the boost up to 3rd. We have nudged him out of that space there. Let's see what Kenneth can do. He's going to bide his time. He knows that the cars ahead will eventually get out of his way. I will, certainly. I'm sure Timmy will put up a fight. The best that Kevin can do is come to the back of the pack in gear 2. Let's see what Timmy can do. He could go to 4th with a boost like that. That will put him on the corner in 4th gear, make things a little trickier for cars behind to get past. We can't quite match that. 2 hazards on gears 1 and 3. So we finish behind in 5th gear. Kenneth is next, and he is going to be able to do very much the same. Into the next round we go, and we are next. We need to be in 4th alongside Timmy. That will mean turning that into a hazard no matter what. We need to drop down to 1st gear to obey the speed limit. We can then coast through like that. However, we are blocked a little by Kevin. So if we boost up to 3rd, drop to 2nd, coast and then push him through, that will be the best thing I think we can do. Let's see how far through that we get. We do have some focus now. That luckily turned into a hazard anyway, thanks to the defender trait. That's our first hazard of the roll. Breaking down to 1st gives us 2 more hazards. So we have crashed and our damage is -1 gear. We have some catching up to do, I think. Before that happens, we need to see what Kenneth can do. And this will be a bit of a complicated turn. So luckily he's got no hazards to worry about, because the first one that he puts down is next to Timmy Hansen. So that will turn gear 4 into a hazard. The next problem is that by breaking down to 1st gear and pushing us forward, he not only takes damage and gives us damage for the difference in gears, it also means that he has to go the long way around, because he cannot push us again because we are not blocking him. We're just a nuisance in his way. So whatever happens, Kenneth is going to have to go the long way. So he's going to drop down to 1st here, and he will have to spend some coast die to get around like that. From there, however, he can carry on his turn, so he can boost up to 3rd gear, drop to 2nd, and then come into the space there in 2nd gear next to Kevin, who wasn't pushed out of the way, thanks to our turn not going anywhere near as planned. Gets the jump on Timmy, and thanks to Kevin, there will be no way for Timmy to go forward. And finally, we've got Kevin, who has lost control. Hazards on 1, 2, 3, and 4. He has lost a couple of gears as he crashes before the jump. Is he unlucky as well? Yes, he is. So he's going to draw another damage token, and that will be a change in weather. So we are all on to leader dice, and we have one fewer break die. A couple of crashes and a change in weather, a yellow flag. It's all happening on this turn. So let's see what Kenneth can do on the next. Kenneth is going to try to get as far down the track away from Timmy as he can. It might be wise to go up to 5th gear before the corner and then just hold tight until the track ahead clears. It won't be too long for it to clear, just as soon as Kevin has moved. I think that is the best that Timmy can do, is to come alongside his dad in 5th gear. We have 1 gear fewer, so let's just trundle our way through. The best that Kevin can do is finish in 3rd gear around the first corner. From here, it basically descended into chaos. The front runners completely forgot about the effects that a change in weather has on their dashboard and crashed heavily into the hairpin. There were more yellow flags ignored, some cars moving into spaces they shouldn't have been able to reach, and even 2 separate occasions where the drivers managed to boost from 1st gear into 4th. It was very much a wreck of a Rallycross race, but after 10 rounds, which was when all that chaos kicked off, we had completed 3 laps. And when you get into the flow of the course and better understand how to get around it efficiently, it doesn't take too many turns to get through a lap. The front runners were able to get onto lap 5 during the 15th round of play, albeit with a few mistakes here and there, as I say. This tiny course can offer up some interesting decisions which I thought it might be lacking, and your choice of how to drive through each corner and how fast to tackle the jump can lead to some neat little battles. But there's one thing that really slowed down gameplay here, and that's how little space there is, not just on track but around it. I was knocking over the Joker gates and even putting tokens in positions that covered the track, leading to occasions where turns could and should have been played differently were the drivers able to see all of the possibilities that lay ahead. With another 2 cars, I don't think it'd be much fun at all, and if those cars are bumping into each other and making use of various pushing rules, the game might just slow to a grind as you sit and work out what happens when and what all the ramifications are for the next turn. So does that mean there is such a thing as too small when it comes to Rallyman circuits? I think that might be the case, yes, but I also think you can mitigate that by scaling down the car count and the rules overhead as well. Let's not forget that the pushing rules are advanced rules and are therefore optional in your Rallycross events. If you're introducing a couple of friends to Rallyman, maybe a handful of tiles consisting of a couple of corners and a feature like a jump is enough to get the various concepts of the game across to them, and a course like this would be all you need. But I have a feeling that you're going to want a little more. A tile or 2 can make all the difference, and allowing a circuit to breathe can allow the players to relax a little too. Who wants the stress of everything having to be perfect in order for you to win? It might be fun occasionally, but not for every game. A turn or 2 of downtime each lap might be the solution. Hopefully all of this has given you something to think about when you're constructing your own courses. Ultimately, there's no right or wrong way to do things, just big and little and everything in between, each with their own challenges to face and barriers to crash into. Whether based on real-world circuits or completely made up on the spot, just make sure to have fun going around them, hoping that you don't need just one more lap to win.